So first we had mysterious drones appearing in New Jersey, and now we have planes all around the world having issues, some of which have crash landed, although most have had problems with their landing gear. I noticed a lot of people online wondering if there was any connection between these so-called drone sightings and recent plane accidents, so I asked AI about this.
Reports continue that some pilots and air traffic controllers have also described unknown objects interfering with flights, fueling speculation that there could be more to this than just mere coincidence.
Has anything like this ever happened before?
Japan Airlines Flight 1628 encountered a massive UFO over Alaska, which interfered with the plane's instruments. While the flight landed safely, this case shows that unidentified objects can potentially affect aviation.
This is interesting because people have proposed this question in the past, but why now all of a sudden? Initial beliefs were that commercial planes began suffering mechanical issues because they sat unused for a period of time over lockdown, or perhaps we're just seeing a lot more of it because we're spending more time on apps like TikTok. I found this graph on BBC, and we can see that deaths in commercial aircraft accidents worldwide have actually been coming down, until this year.
The timing alone raises a lot of questions. Are these just unrelated events, or is there something more going on? If history tells us anything, UFO waves often precede major global events. But what if this time, the event isn't a war or a disaster on the ground, but rather something happening in our skies? Whether these objects are warning us, monitoring us, or directly interfering, the coincidence is too big to ignore.
Could these objects be directly responsible for some of these plane accidents? A US military pilot recently reported that he had a close encounter with an unidentified flying object. The incident involving a Homeland Security flight occurred at about 20,000 feet at around 2:30 p.m. on September 17th, 2024.
Troy 2-1, go ahead.
It's not weird, but I just had something pass underneath my wing, maybe like a football-sized object right underneath our wing.
Troy 2-1, Roger. Do you think it was a drone or?
I have no idea. I got my sensor operator looking for it on the camera right now. We'll see if we can find it. But it's like a dark gray cylindrical object, and it was probably the size of a football, and it passed maybe 10 feet under our right wing.
Troy 2-1, Roger. Thank you for the report. Keep me advised if you find anything else out.
Yeah, we'll do. We're looking for it now.
About a month earlier, pilots on a Boeing 747 flying from Saudi Arabia to Nigeria experienced a remarkable multi-UFO encounter and were able to capture it on video.
Ooh, very bright now. Wow.
The UFOs moved erratically, with one pilot describing them as extremely bright, maneuvering freely and even flying in formation at times. He even made the remark that it was as if they were trying to entertain us, keeping us awake when we were getting sleepy. And again, a year earlier we have this one. May of 2023, a Colombian pilot named Jorge A. Arteaga captured this remarkable footage of a silver dish-shaped UFO passing near his aircraft. Retired US Navy pilot David Fravor spoke about these craft and what they could do on a Joe Rogan podcast back in 2019.
And we see whitewater, something like if you see a seamount, rock underwater when you're standing on the shore and the waves are breaking over it and you're like, what is that? It's usually because there's a rock under the water. So it looks like that, but it's about the size of a 737. It actually kind of has a shape of like a cross, and it's pointing to the east. So you've got the long part going east-west, and you got a couple of things going north and south. So as we're looking at it, because that kind of draws our eyes, we're like, oh, that's kind of odd. We look down, and the Wizzo in the other airplane comes up and says, hey, Skipper, do you? And that's about what he gets out of his mouth. And I'm kind of looking at the same thing. I go, dude, do you see that? What is that thing? And what we see is this white tic-tac looking object just above the surface of the water, pointing north-south, and it's going north, south, east, west. It's just radically moving forward, back, left, right at will. And it's moving around the disturbance, the whitewater that we see.
How big is this thing?
So, over time, it's about 40 feet long. And the way I estimate that is, I mean, I got a lot of time fighting other airplanes, so it's about the size of a Hornet fuselage. So that's why I say 40 feet. And this thing's just going left. So the first thing you see when you look down, you go, and this is with our eyes, it's not sensors, right? So we're looking down at this thing, and first thing you think is helicopter, right? Helicopters typically stay below 200 feet when we're out there, and they're just driving around. We're pretty far away from the ship for a helicopter for one of ours. So what is it? So the first thing you look for is rotor wash. You know, if you've watched any TV show that starts kicking the water up, and you can see that it's really easy to see from the air. So we're like, no rotor wash. Matter of fact, don't see any rotors. Don't see any tail rotor. Don't see any, the main rotors. We're like, that's kind of weird. So as we're driving around, we're looking at this thing. We get to about the 9 o'clock position.
How far away are you from this thing?
I'm at 20,000 feet, and it's right down on the surface, right off our right side. So I'm probably maybe a couple miles lateral and 20,000 feet, and we're just watching it move around. So I got this nice easy descent. I get to about 12 o'clock, and as I'm coming down, I could guess probably about 18,000 feet now, a couple thousand feet below the other airplane. The tic-tac just kind of rapidly goes boop and turns, so now it's kind of pointing east-west, and now it mirrors us. So it's above the surface, we're up high, we're coming down, it starts coming up. I'm like, well, this is getting interesting. So we kind of drive all the way around a circle. I'm descending, it's coming up, and I get over to about the 8 o'clock position on the clock, and it's over at about the 2 o'clock position. Well, the quickest way, as we know as kids, to get someone, you can keep going around the circle, nothing's going to happen. You cut across the circle. So I'm about, probably 2,000 to 3,000 feet above it, and I just kind of drop my nose aggressively, and I cut across the circle, and it's coming this way. It's because I'm trying to fly to where it's going to be, because I want to join on it. I want to see how close I can get to it.
Right.
And as I'm pulling up, it's kind of starting to cross my nose, and it starts to accelerate. And within about less than a second, as I start to pull nose onto it and it crosses right in front of me, it just goes poof and it's gone.
None of these sightings ever mention a visible means of propulsion, almost as if these craft can just teleport in a way through the sky. A self-proclaimed physicist named Robert Scott Lazar claimed to have been part of a classified US government project concerned with the reverse engineering of some type of craft. He said this occurred at a secret facility site named S4 near Area 51 in the late 1980s.
The reactor is similar to this half-scale model. The element 115 is machined into triangles like this and is then inserted into the reactor. This piece of element 115 is the source of the gravity A wave as well as the target that is bombarded with protons to release the antimatter, both of which we learned about in our science lessons.
His story brought additional public attention to the facility and spawned all types of conspiracy theories regarding government knowledge and extraterrestrial life. Bob was almost regarded as a crazy man for decades, up until these sightings became common again. It's almost like this intelligence wants to be seen, wants to show its capabilities. Whatever it is, it's no longer being subtle in the way it operates. Take these recent sightings from California, for example. Naturally, if these objects do belong to a higher intelligence, surely they would understand that appearing in such a highly publicized event meant they'd be caught on camera and seen by millions.
That's right. We did see a lull in that wind activity, and it began as early as today. And, we were able to get that small little break, and that break just recently starting to, come on the brink of being expired. We are going to see those winds picking up.
Watching this one frame by frame, it appears to change shape, almost as if it's becoming elongated at some points. Also, if you look even closer, this silver craft is slightly covered in something, similar to that of a vapor cone a jet has when traveling at transonic speeds, which is typically around 700 or 800 miles per hour. And look at the comments on this video. Someone said, "I just attempted to map and measure the distance using GIS from those water towers to Long Valley Road, roughly around 8,000 feet apart. This object appears to fly that in about 3 seconds. Assuming 5k feet in 3 seconds, that's about 1,200 miles per hour, the speed of a fighter jet." So pretty much just what I said. Someone else wrote, "So this is life now. I'm watching UFOs flying over devastating out-of-control fires on Earth. UFOs seem to have a pattern of appearing around moments of high human emotion, crisis, or even transformation. UFOs have consistently been reported around battlefields, military bases, and nuclear sites, leading some to believe that they may be acting as observers, deterrents, or even silent enforcers. In 1964, former US Air Force Lieutenant Bob Jacobs was in the 1369 Photo Squadron at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. He was in charge of photo-optical instrumentation at a tracking site in Big Sur. His mission was to film an Atlas rocket go through all 3 stages of a powered flight. Although, a day or two after the launch, when reviewing the footage, they saw something they couldn't explain.
According to Jacobs, at this stage the rocket was traveling between 11 and 14,000 miles per hour when a saucer-shaped craft entered the frame.
It flew into the frame like this, and it shot a beam of light at the warhead. Now, remember, all this stuff is flying at several thousand miles an hour. So this thing fires a beam of light at the warhead, hits it, fires another beam of light, and then flies out the way it came in. And the warhead tumbles out of space. Now, when the lights came on, Major Mansman turned around and looked at me and said, "Were you guys screwing around up there?" And I said, "No, sir." And he said, "What was that?" And I said, "It looks to me like we got a UFO."
And this sort of stuff still looks like it's happening today. This orb appeared to follow missiles before disarming them during an Israeli conflict in early December of 2024.
What's that?
The strange thing is that these UFOs seem to appear for no reason at all. A witness submitted this video to the Mutual UFO Network on August 17th, 2017. Could it be a bug, a frisbee, or just a hoax? Another UFO was seen on Channel 4 News in Oklahoma.
Start out outside today where it was actually a warmer day than we've been seeing and one of the warmest that we're going to have on the entire 7-day forecast moving forward. Wonder what that is right there. That's pretty interesting. Moving really fast. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got here. Just interesting stuff flying around the sky.
Channel ABC News caught an unknown glowing orb on camera. Michelle Reyes caught an image of a mysterious flying cylinder, possibly a UFO, from her airplane window above LaGuardia Airport in New York City. What if these objects occupy our airspace for a reason, whether it's surveillance, resource collection, or something beyond our understanding?
Humans assume our airspace belongs to them, but what if these objects were here long before we took to the skies? If their presence is increasing, is it because we've crossed a line in technology or warfare that interests them, or are we simply noticing something that's always been there? If they're operating with a purpose, what happens if we interfere?
Are we accidentally flying into areas they control? Could all of these plane accidents be a warning to stay grounded? Historically, UFO waves have coincided with major world events. It's just a theory, but could keeping us out of the skies be a way of preparing us for something? If another global scale event is unfolding, are they forcing air traffic down for safety, or to stop us from witnessing something? Or could all of this be tied to AI-controlled aviation, or even quantum computing advancements that unknowingly interact with a higher intelligence? Physicist Michio Kaku theorized how this might be how another civilization has advanced far beyond us.
Like when we were talking on our last podcast about the preponderance of evidence that there's things that operate inside of our atmosphere that are beyond imagination, that are they operate with no visible means of propulsion, they move at insane speeds, we don't understand what they are. If we think about what quantum computing is going to be capable of, that's the kind of stuff we're thinking about, right?
Yeah, you see, quantum computers are the ultimate computers because they're computing on atoms. If there are aliens in outer space, and I think there are, it means that they also have perfected quantum computers, and they can do calculations that are far beyond anything that we can calculate with. Like, for example, a wormhole. A wormhole, in principle, is a gateway between two distant points in space and time, which allows you to break the Einstein barrier and go faster than the speed of light. But the calculations are horrendous. It may take a quantum computer to sort through what happens when you go through a wormhole and wind up on the other side of the universe. And the aliens probably already have done that.
Yeah,
They've probably had centuries of experience with quantum computers, because that's the ultimate computer. You can't compute on anything smaller than an atom. And they probably already have used the quantum computers to navigate through wormholes, let's say, hypothetically.
This is where it gets really wild. What if using these new quantum computing systems is like sending a ripple into another intelligence plane of existence? Google claims quantum chip might prove existence of parallel universes. It's just a theory, but as AI systems improve, they rely on more advanced quantum processors, meaning they could be tapping into something beyond our understanding. If some of these UFOs do represent higher dimensional intelligences, they might be reacting to our quantum activity, almost like an alert that we've breached their domain. Take the first nuclear tests in the 1940s, for example. Before 1945, UFO sightings were rare, but after the first atomic bomb detonation at Trinity, New Mexico in July of 1945, reports of unidentified craft skyrocketed. Companies like Google and IBM are racing to develop quantum AI. What if UFO sightings have increased because we've unknowingly disturbed something?
What if quantum computing and our use of atoms to compute is pushing past the natural boundaries of our reality, almost like breaking the rules of a video game? In gaming, when a player glitches through a wall or exploits the system, they can see or interact with things that weren't meant to be accessed. What if our experiments with quantum mechanics, AI, and parallel dimensions are doing the same thing, revealing something that has always been there but never meant to be seen? If the universe is more than what we can see and touch, then perhaps these UFOs, or whatever they are, aren't just operating randomly. Maybe they've always been here, just outside of our perception, and our recent advancements are forcing an interaction we were never supposed to have. The real question is, are we unlocking something or breaking something? What if the weird shapes of these UFOs aren't their true forms, but just the cross-sections of a higher dimensional object intersecting with our reality?
Interesting. I looked around online and found this video on the fourth dimension by astronomer and scientist Carl Sagan.
Now, a three-dimensional creature exists in flatland only partially. Only a plane, a cross-section through him can be seen. So when the three-dimensional creature first reaches flatland, it's only the points of contact which can be seen, and we'll represent that by stamping the apple in this ink pad and placing that image in flatland. And as the apple were to descend through, slither by flatland, we would progressively see higher and higher slices, which we can represent by cutting the apple. So the square, as time goes on, sees a set of objects mysteriously appear from nowhere and inside a closed room and change their shape dramatically.
If UFOs exist in higher dimensions and we're only seeing their cross-sections, then we would have no way of fully understanding their true interactions with our world. If they are responsible for plane crashes or malfunctions, it might not be in a way that we can directly observe or measure. For example, a plane could unknowingly pass through a part of a larger structure that exists outside our perception, causing instrument failures or strong anomalies. Pilots might see nothing before suddenly encountering turbulence, electromagnetic disruptions, or even mid-air collisions with something that wasn't visible in normal space. Some crashes could result from unknown forces or distortions in space-time, which would leave no traceable evidence of interference.
MH370 is one of the most mysterious aviation disappearances in history, and some theorists suggest that it may have been taken by a higher intelligence. So-called leaked infrared and satellite footage allegedly shows 3 glowing orbs circling MH370 before the plane suddenly vanishes in a flash of light. Investigative journalist Ashton Forbes spoke about this on the Candace Owens podcast.
Yeah, so the satellite video was the first video to get published. The satellite video was published May 19th, 2014. So this is 70 days after the plane disappears. But in the description of the video, and this was from a Regicide Anon YouTube account, that was the name of the YouTuber, Regicide Anon, some obscure YouTube account with a dozen followers or something like that. This video actually in the description says, received March 12th, 2014. That's 4 days after the plane disappeared.
I looked in that area where flight MH370 was said to go missing on the National UFO Reporting Center map and saw 7 sightings nearby, 2 of which describe something eerily similar. Look at this, 2 sightings of orange orbs off the coast of Koh Samui, an island in southern Thailand. Obviously, orbs would be the best description you'd give these things circling around the plane as well. But we can't even prove that these 2 videos are real. Although, look at this I found. During World War II, pilots from both Allied and Axis forces reported glowing-like orbs following their planes. They called them Foo Fighters, orbs that followed military planes. And apparently, these orbs displayed intelligent movement, could outmaneuver fighter jets, and often appeared in combat zones. Just like the MH370 orbs, they never showed up as enemy aircraft, raising questions about their true origin and purpose.
If these objects have the ability to manipulate space-time, then rather than a traditional hijacking, MH370 could have been relocated to another reality altogether, one that exists alongside our own, but is inaccessible to us. Now, in late 2024 and early 2025, we've seen mysterious drone or UFO sightings over New Jersey, with some of these objects resembling commercial airliners in shape and in movement. What if these sightings aren't just drones, but something trying to mimic or recreate human aircraft? This could explain why some UFOs seem to mimic traditional aircraft, yet lack clear propulsion or even sound, blink in and out of existence as if phasing between dimensions, or have flight patterns that resemble but don't fully match normal planes.
Clearly, AI is reaching with this theory, but it's interesting. Whether these 2 videos are real or not, with the amount of recent plane accidents, it begs the question, are we in some way being pushed out of the skies? Are these objects actively interfering with human aviation? It's happened before, is it happening again? While the possible UFO connection is intriguing, there could be more logical explanations for the recent spike in plane accidents that have nothing to do with an unknown intelligence or UFOs. For example, the Earth's magnetic field is weakening and the North and South poles are drifting at a faster rate than before. This could potentially disrupt navigation systems, GPS accuracy, and aviation instruments, leading to more plane malfunctions or even crashes. Also, during COVID-19, thousands of aircraft sat in storage for weeks, if not months. Long-term inactivity could have caused mechanical issues, rusting, and degraded components, especially in critical systems like engines, hydraulics, and landing gear. We know this non-human intelligence is here and active, but are they actually responsible for the rise in aviation accidents? Or is this weird timing nothing but a coincidence?